Hey everyone, it's Greg. Welcome back to another episode of the Empire Flippers podcast and the Opportunity Show. Today I am talking to Chris M. Walker. The M is very important, as you'll come to realize in the interview when he explains it. But he is one of the founders of Legiit. And I've been following Chris's story for quite a long time. We've never really had chatted before, but I knew of him. Always see what he's doing on Facebook and the other social media channels with Legiit. And I honestly have a few friends that make some pretty decent money as freelancers on Legiit. So I've always thought it was a cool business. The first half of this podcast, or a little bit over, I guess I should say, is us really talking about the marketplace problem. So if you don't run a marketplace, you probably don't know this, but marketplaces are notoriously hard businesses to run and build because you basically always have two marketing funnels that you need to fill at the same time. In his case, he needs freelancers and he needs people who need to hire those freelancers. At Empire Flippers, we need sellers, but we also need buyers, but we can't have buyers if we don't have sellers, and sellers aren't interested if you don't have buyers. So it's always this very strange dance you have to do that just makes the entire business so much more complicated. So one thing Chris talks about is culture, how he built his team. And I thought there was a very good wisdom he put in where he prioritizes the culture in his remote team. A lot of people go, woo-woo about it, but I honestly think this is one of the most important parts of your company, especially as you scale and you start getting to a point where maybe you don't know everything that's going on in your business anymore because the people underneath you are so much better at it and they've taken it to the next level with that beyond your skill set, right? So culture is what keeps the ship swimming in the right direction, so to speak. All right, well, that's enough of me rambling here. So I will go ahead and see you on the other side as I talk to Chris Walker from Legiit. See you there. All right, I got Chris Walker here with me, one of the founders of Legiit. Chris, welcome to the podcast. I've been a fan of yours for a while. I've been following your journey for probably years at this point. So for those who don't know you, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm a fan of yours as well, so thank you.
Oh, thanks.
My name is Chris M. Walker. I have the M because there was a pop star in the 90s that had one hit. And if you search Chris Walker, he gets all the results. I always tell that joke at the beginning of my presentations to lighten the mood, but it's true. I couldn't outrank him. But anyhow, I'll give you a quick origin story. I started in SEO and doing affiliate marketing in 2013 because I just needed to make some extra money. One thing led to the other. I did pretty well with that. Then I ended up getting into another course after a Penguin update. I ended up losing all that. And I got into doing client SEO while I still had my day job, and I was doing well with that, but it wasn't enough to quit the day job. And then I started doing on a whim. I used a marketplace to do freelancing. That marketplace no longer exists, but to do freelancing, and I sold a couple services, and then an influencer endorsed my service, and so I got a ton of services. I started driving that into my own group and my own brand and things like that. And after that site started having problems, getting hacked and crashed and being unreliable, I started selling things through my own website, just my own agency website. And I'd made friends with a lot of the freelancers there and that other marketplace. And they were like, can we start selling through your site too? I was like, well, maybe I've got something here. And I partnered with a developer who, by the way, was a customer that I had on that other marketplace to launch Legiit. Now, Legiit was just going to be an extra product for my SEO business, just another thing that I could offer people. But within the first month, it took off, and it was my number one revenue source, literally within the first month. And that's been almost 7 months. It'll be on the 7th of February. It will be 7 years since we launched. So that's where we are now.
Oh, that's amazing. It's funny how that works. Our path is somewhat similar to yours in that when we first started selling businesses, we sold them on Flippa. And then eventually we were blogging about it and people started reaching out to us hey, could we just sell it with you guys? What? No, we're building our, we told them no. Then eventually they kept asking, so we did. And that's how we started our own marketplace, in a similar fashion. So that's cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah. We were an outsourcing company before we started becoming an M&A firm. So it's pretty wild, the transformation over the last 8 or so years. So talk to me a bit about when did you know you were going to go full in on Legiit? I'm assuming the agency kind of took a back seat as you started moving to Legiit. You see this thing taking off a missile. Talk to me the story of those early days of Legiit.
Sure. So like I said, in the beginning, I didn't even know it was going to be a thing. We didn't even form it as a business to begin with. It was just going to be a product for my other business. And then We launched in February. By August, I knew that this needed to be a separate entity and a business. So that's when I went and incorporated and did all the government nonsense. But even at that point, it was still both priorities. And I want to say it wasn't until 2020 that it really became the other thing became the backseat, which I still have it, by the way, but it became the backseat and Legiit became the main thing. Like during the pandemic, I got like the early pandemic, like everybody else, I was like scared of what was going to happen. So I focused on keeping that going by doing like daily live streams and community and stuff. And it's horrible to say, the pandemic was really, really good for our business and really gave us a lot of growth. So that's kind of when it went from being one of my two businesses to my main business. And the other one is the other business. So
Interesting. Yeah. COVID was a very weird time for internet businesses. Like the rest of the world is doing awful, but e-commerce is killing it. It's just like crazy. We
it's
sold
just
a
the
lot
right
of
place at the right time.
yeah, very strange era. Okay, so that makes sense. So 2020 is when you really start like taking it, like really starts becoming its main thing. One thing I think, and I'm curious on your thoughts on this. So we're a marketplace, right? We have the double-sided marketplace. You're a marketplace, and I feel like this issue is never really talked about a lot with a lot of entrepreneurs. Like when you have a buyer and a seller, or in your case, like a freelancer and a client, and you're trying to sell both of them, this like multiplies the complexity of everything you do in marketing by
Yes.
a massive amount. So
Yeah.
maybe walk me through, for my audience out there is not familiar with the double-sided marketplace problem, maybe walk us through that and how you try to solve it at Legiit.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you're never going to solve it. I'm sure you know.
That's the
I call it like the chicken and the egg problem. And I probably didn't come up with that. Like on one hand, you have to have enough customers. We call them customers and freelancers. You have to have enough customers to keep the freelancers happy and keep them working. If you don't, then the freelancers are going to get complained. They're going to complain no matter what, but they're going to complain and that they're not getting enough work. But then if you have too few freelancers and too many customers, they either can't find what they need or the freelancers that we do have get overwhelmed. So you can't ever focus on just growing one. You kind of have to grow them at the same rate. And that's really challenging because it's way harder to get new customers than it is to get new freelancers. Like, I don't know if you've had the same experience, but it's much easier for me to just throw up a video. Here's how you can make $10,000 a month on freelancing, whatever. That'll bring in freelancers like
you can
fly.
spend $10,000 a month on Legiit.
Yeah, that's a bit harder of a pitch to throw. And there's other complexities too. Like paid advertising is a much harder to do, at least for a product like ours, because like we don't really control the product. I mean, we do, but we can be running ads to a service and it's doing really well, and the freelancer decides to take a vacation, or they just randomly. And this is a weird phenomenon, but great freelancers will all of a sudden just completely suck. It's like so it's makes paid advertising a challenge too. Tracking is much more difficult. But the hardest part is, again, growing the two sides at once. And we made the mistake in the beginning of focusing way too much on getting new freelancers and kind of branding ourselves as by freelancers for freelancers. And what that did was give us tons and tons and tons of freelancers. And it's not that they weren't quality, but they weren't putting in the effort. And they built some bad habits from some of the other freelance sites that you probably know the name of. They just wanted to like list a service and expect money to fall on them. And I didn't anticipate that. So like, we've had to kind of rebrand and like change our mission a bit to kind of accommodate for that and focus more on client growth. So the theory being that if there's clients, the freelancers will come. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I do feel your pain because like ours is businesses we sell, right? But we don't control what business we have. I mean, we do a little bit with our vetting, but it's always different every week that we have. So like, yeah, it's like how long is a piece of string to run this ad, like to get it to convert. So I totally feel you on that. Walk me through a bit on so you mentioned like building the freelancers as somewhat of an easy button with like, making this much money or whatever. How are you attracting customers? How do you go about doing that?
variety of ways. I hate this expression, but my personal brand has been very helpful in that way and just building trust through that. Paid advertising does work. It took us a long time to find an agent. I couldn't figure out how to do it myself. It took us a long time to find an agency that got it, but that did. Just organic. Like this year, I've been focusing on doing a lot of networking. So right now I'm in India. I'm from the United States. I'm in India right now where I spoke at an event. I'm doing as many of these types of interviews as I can. I've joined a bunch of communities and done that. And then, like I said, in early 2020, I was doing daily live streams. That really, really grew our customer base. I got away from that for a while because like there's only so many things I can say every day. But what else? And there's certain funnels that have worked really well. And then one thing that has worked, like some of our biggest spenders, I used to have an info product called Superstar SEO Academy. It was like an SEO training program. And most of our best customers came through that. Like any great marketer, I stopped doing it because it was working. And that's kind of been the different channels. The struggle is like there's nobody to ask for advice. You know what I mean? Like there's like 10 people in the world that know these problems and they don't want to help you. So
They're busy trying to solve it themselves. Yeah.
yeah.
The marketing thing is what I always tell my team. Like when a new marketer joins my team, I tell them if something looks like it's working really well, that means there's probably something broken. We need to figure out what's wrong. Because like marketing is like 9 out of 10 failures usually.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's cool. You got ads to work though. That actually kind of surprises me. I would assume, and maybe it was like a pretty long slog to figure out with like just how dynamic your product is. I could see that being a struggle.
Yeah, and it still doesn't work as well as it would for like an e-commerce shop where you own all the products, or an info product or something like that. It's never going to be as easy, and the tracking is a nightmare because like none of the out of the box solutions work. Like the Hyroses and Wicked Reports, and I forget what else is out there. Improvely, none of that stuff works for a two-sided marketplace. And I think eventually we're going to have to create our own for our own specific use case. But that's a big time investment, and dev time, as you know, is not cheap.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I've never used Hyros, but I've used Wicked Reports. So like the dev time that it took for us to set that up was like quite laborious. And then we got to the very end, dude, and the guy, our account manager, was like, "Okay, so what's your payment process?" We're like, "Bankwire." Like Bankwire. Like yeah, like people don't put like $7 million on a credit card to buy an e-commerce store, right?
Right.
It's a Bankwire. They're like, "Oh, this is not going to work for you at all." Then like what? Like of course, without the payment processor, like the open loop of the attribution just completely doesn't work, right? So like, damn it.
Yeah. We had a lot of trouble. We used them for a while, and we had a lot of trouble with attribution with them because like it would credit some of our biggest customers who came through like a Google ad like 2 years ago to Google ads for that month, who are now our regular customers that bought from us. So it was never accurate. And like another problem we had, and not to dunk on them, but we never got like the same person in support or as an account manager. So we had to walk them through what we were every time. They're like, you just need to install the pixel on your thank you page. I was like, no, we're not that kind of business.
Yeah, they could probably do some love with the more complex businesses. I really do like the owner of Wicked Reports. I think he's a great guy. But yeah, for niche, weird businesses like you and me, it's not the greatest, maybe.
No, I really think you have to have a custom software built for a two-way marketplace. The entrepreneur in me has really wanted to like build that and sell it, but I'd like to live past 50.
One thing at a time. Yeah, one thing at a time. Yeah, we didn't even mention the problems that comes up in your CRM, like HubSpot is lead scoring, right? And like, okay, which lead though? Which lead are we scoring? The buyer or the seller? They're very different. So
yeah, just basic analytics. Like you might go, man, we had a lot of traffic, but it's just like people like freelancers or sellers checking it. So like raw traffic numbers aren't very useful either.
Yeah, for sure, dude. So talk to me about the course then. Why did you stop that when you said it was working? Is there a reason? Are you bring it back?
Well, for one, I didn't realize it was working. Like I never made the connection at that time. That was where our best customers came from. But also, I don't know if you've ever done any like courses in for products, but a lot of work, especially because we were doing it as like a monthly recurring thing. So I had to constantly pour water in the top to keep it faster than it came out the bottom to keep it working. I love that analogy. I also like, I want to, if I could create a product like an info product, I want to give good information. And the truth is I just don't do that much SEO anymore to where I can morally like sell an SEO course. Now I've gotten back into it enough to do where I have like another little cheap course, but to be honest, that's just a loss leader. But I would love to do that again, but I just need like other coaches to do it for me. So I just haven't quite figured out how to square that circle or whatever the expression is.
Yeah, that makes sense. You should do it, man. I think info product funnels are fantastic. That leads into services. Maybe partner with someone from Legiit. You have a whole retinue of SEO experts at your disposal with Legiit, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean that's what Russell Brunson did for ClickFunnels, right? Like I don't know their books, but I get the impression that the software loses money and they need the info products to make it the whole business function.
Yeah, ClickFunnels is in a weird place right now. Go High Level is like really taking over their market share. Their AI. I was in ClickFunnels for like I forget exactly what I was doing. I think I was messing around with some funnel or something like that. But I transferred it over to Go High Level because I wanted to test it out there too. And I asked the AI on ClickFunnels how to do it. And it just like went on this whole thing about how go high levels are thieves and stealing. Like what? Like they really trained this AI to hate go high level, which is I thought was very funny.
Yeah, I really do feel like they haven't kept up with the times, both in
Yeah.
their marketing and in their product. Because like I don't even see their marketing anymore, and he used to be absolutely relentless with his
Yeah.
marketing.
Like when I was in my free trial with it, they're still trying to sell you. Like after you paid, like why are you trying to sell me? I just want to use the product. But anyhow, talk to me a bit about the funnel for Legiit. How does that work? So like you mentioned raw traffic isn't usually the most valuable. Like what are your KPIs that you look for in your marketplace?
Okay, well, and to be clear, it's not that it's not valuable, but it's like if I got 100,000 visitors yesterday, 50 or 60,000 of them might have been freelancers. So
Right.
there's no good way to really identify. At least I haven't found it. Funnel wise, we have a bunch of different like fun types of funnels, but I've put together now, and it kind of goes back to the info product. Is like I wrote a like 70-page SEO ebook. I wrote it myself, and that funnel has always crushed for me. And so again, I stopped doing it because it was working. And I click this button, get this ebook, and then upsell into a course. And we actually have courses like course hosting on Legiit now too. So that's going to be a way to get people.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've done a great job of not telling anybody about it. But,
well, you're telling them now. You're telling them now, Chris.
I'm being a little bit sarcastic there. Like, I tried really hard to get course creators to sign up, and I would run ads, and I would get a lot of leads from course creators. And I even said, we will literally upload your content to our site, no monthly fees. We'll do everything for you. And like, I could never get any of them to send me the damn content. But where was I going with that? Oh, but anyway, I think that funnel is going to work really well for us because it's always worked well in the past, and it's just very, very simple, and it's a good offer. So that's one funnel that's worked really well. And then writing choosing certain services on freelancers that I know deliver and will not just flake on me, and writing like really good direct response copywriting for it has worked well too, and bringing people in. And then retargeting works really, really well. You may have seen the TV show You.
I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm familiar or not.
Well, anyway, it's like this guy who gets obsessed with different women each season, and like he says, "I'm going to see you." Well, I made this retargeting ad that was.
That works as a bookseller?
Yeah, that's the one.
I've seen the first season. Yeah, okay, yes, great show. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Anyway, I wrote an ad that was him like looking through a fence, and it's like, we saw you. You looked at other marketplaces, but you chose us. And I've been running that ad nonstop for about 4 years, and it's made that one retargeting ad has generated over $1 million in sales.
Wow, so, very cool.
Like sometimes we'll complain and say, "When are you going to fresh up your marketing and get rid of this?" When it stops working is when I'll stop doing it.
Yeah,
the last time that I didn't stop doing something that was working.
Right. Yeah, well, yeah, like the other two things, of course.
Yeah.
You always think you need to refresh stuff. Like often you don't. Like I have friends that are running the same ad with the same creative, same copy for like 6 years now, and still works. Yeah. Why change it? You can always run things side by side against it, but why change it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. My theory on marketing is if people are telling you that your marketing is annoying, that means you're doing it right and you need to do more.
I did retargeting ads for Facebook for a bit. I think it was on YouTube. A lot of our friends, they're at the gym, they're watching YouTube while running or something. Then suddenly just here I come destroying their Beyonce music video. I got all these messages on Facebook because, we're a pretty tight community. So they see me and they just shoot me a message, stop interrupting my gym time. I probably like 10 of those messages.
That's hilarious.
You got to buy a business. That's the only way I'll stop because I'll exclude you from the audience.
That doesn't even work with me. I run retargeting relentlessly. Like I have simple ones too, that retargets everyone that visits our site. That's just like a selfie video of me saying, "Thanks for checking out Legiit. Let me know if you need anything." And I run that on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, Pinterest, Reddit, Quora, and LinkedIn. Anywhere else that has retargeting. So people will see my face no matter where they go.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So you're just like everywhere.
Yeah. Those are super cheap. Like I have $5-10 a day.
Across each platform. Right?
Yeah, for each one. So it adds up to $75 a day or something.
Yeah. But it's worth it because people seem to be engaging. They're going in, they're going deeper into the funnel.
And occasionally we get the, "Oh my God, stop it." But
please stop.
My theory is they're never going to forget me that way.
It's true, man. Like I did the organic version of that, which is way harder in my view because it takes so much more time. But early on in my career, I just was everywhere, every blog post, every video, podcast, doing interview, writing, did a huge industry report. I had a friend, he went to this accounting site to see, like, check out his books, basically. He goes to their blog, and the first thing he sees is me. He just sends me a screenshot. I cannot escape you.
That's awesome. That's actually one of my for this year is to do as many of those types of things. That's like, I think the post that got us together for this was me saying, I'll take every single podcast interview
Yeah.
that somebody had.
Just launched in, the predator. Man, come to my show, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, since I got here to India, I've done 3.
Awesome. I guess we should talk a little bit about your India trip. So you're at the conference. Maybe give the audience your little background. Like, so what are you doing in India? What's going on?
So just so you know, for those that don't know, I live in South Carolina in the United States. And one of the organizers for this, and to be honest, I didn't know him. I felt bad. But he messaged me, I don't want to say in like September, maybe August, and said, would you be willing to speak at our India SEO conference in January? I didn't even know this guy at the time. His name is Shripad. And I like looked into it, and it looked legitimate because it had people I know. It had like Craig Campbell and Chris Palmer and a few others that you might recognize, Matt Singers. And I was like, okay, this is legitimate. Yeah. And then I had a live event in September, and one of the people that spoke at that, Navneet, was also, I don't know the exact relationship, but somehow involved in the planning of this. So he arranged it. And then last week I traveled here. It took me 40 hours from the United States to get here. Half of that was getting out of the United States. But it took me 40 hours to get here. But it was a great event. It was called India SEO Conference. They're going to do it again next year in a different part of India, in Goa. It was a great event. And the thing I spoke about was like building tools with AI to coders to like attract links to your site was the topic I spoke about. But the thing that I was most happy about was, and this is kind of self-indulgent, but I've always wanted to speak last at a conference, and like through a series of coincidences, I was able to do that at this one. And I always wanted to get like a really big, like a round of applause. So all weekend I was like meeting the different people, because people love to come up to you when you speak at a conference and like get your picture and like talk to you about what they do. So I would just listen to everybody and then talk to them and say, please stick around. I'm going to be the last one. Please stick around and make sure you cheer as loud as I can. And then it worked. And also, do you know Stephen Kama?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like the MC for the event. And he gave me this really cool introduction, talked about the 40-hour trip to get there and how everybody else was whining. And then he like introduced me, and then like everybody had cheered, and it was great. So, and plus going to these events for years, I fought that and thought that they were a huge waste of time, but I was wrong. Like I've made so many great people, like seen so much impact. Like I'm getting like choked up talking about it. It's like so much impact like that we've been able to have. And, it's been good for business too, but it's both personally fulfilling and financially fulfilling.
No, that's great, man. Well, I'm glad it was so wonderful for you. That's cool. Yeah, there's like a little segment of our industry that really poo-poos on going to the conferences. And I do get their point. I think they do have like reasonable criticisms, but I'm not really an SEO myself. I do sell SEO businesses, of course, so like it makes sense for me to go. But I will say, like Chiang Mai SEO, Saigon, one that's coming up here soon. Like these are great events. I do recommend people to go to them. Like even if you don't learn the SEO side, just like the connections, it's like
absolutely
awesome. These people that you
yeah.
get. So
yeah, like I feel bad saying this because it's like many of the presenters are my friends, but I didn't watch anybody's presentation. I spent the whole time networking, and it worked not only at the true value, but it also worked in the way I tried to get that applause that I was going for. So that's what I always do. It was just a bucket list thing I wanted to do. But.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. I'm glad you got to do that. I imagine your speech crushed. But yeah, when I go to conferences, I also very rarely go to any of the presentations because, like you, is networking. Like this is the most important thing. That my voice is just off from the talking so much for like 8 hours.
Well, and again, no disrespect to my friends who are the presenters, but I've heard their presentation 3-4 times. Because a lot of them get like small tweaks on the same thing, so it's not valuable.
So moving back in, actually, before we get off conference, so I guess you're going to start making more of the conference rounds. You said that like that's your big goal of yours, to do more content. So talk to me a bit about this pivot. What's going on there?
So there's a few different ways to look at it, but I think that what I've decided is that the problem that every business has is obscurity. As long as everybody knows you, you're always going to have opportunities. And I haven't done as good a job as I can getting in front of as many new people. I've been working off the same audience forever, and I haven't been growing my bubble, for lack of a better term, as much as I can. So I want to take as many of these kinds of opportunities, no matter how small the audience is. If they have 10 people that watch them, that's 10 people that have never heard of me, and who knows who they are. They might know another person, so. And then I'm getting invited to a lot of speaking things. I don't seek those out but I get invited. I've gotten invited to them. I'm speaking SEO spring training in May, and then a link building mastery event in that Jabez is throwing in London in June. And then I have 2 of them in Thailand in October, November, and then one other potential one that I haven't officially been invited to. So I don't want to,
I don't want to jinx it.
I've been tentatively, but anyway, those are, first of all, they're great tax write-offs because it's expensive as hell to travel. But there's that advantage. And, I don't treat it like a vacation like a lot of people do, but it is nice to see different parts of the world. Like, today I went on a heritage walk here in India, which was just fascinating. But, the real purpose is to get my name and my brand name out there as much as possible. I don't expect direct ROI from them. Like I can't really measure. I went to this conference and I paid X $1,000 and made Y $1,000 more, but it's there, Yeah. That's the problem with organic in general, right? You can't pinpoint how much it makes.
It's very true, man. It's the halo effect. It makes everything else work a little bit easier. Like we're running this cold email campaign. I don't even really have a personal brand. I have like a little bit of one, but it's all on accident. Like I never tried to do that. But the cold email campaign, like a couple of people like, oh, I know you, Greg. Like, oh, hey, I'm in your email. And so it just works better because they like know me from all the random content that they've consumed over the years, right? So it will do the same for you, I'm sure. So
yeah.
But it's
not just a little anecdote, but like whenever I first would hear your name, like your last name, I played Dungeons and Dragons as a teenager rather than do things that might lead me to meeting girls. So I think elf whenever I hear your name.
Well, you chose the right hobby because I was a dungeon master, so I took it you up to a level. I always joked with people who like struggle with my name, like, yeah, it's like the magical creature elf and a hockey rink combined together. It's a magic. I'm a huge D&D nerd, but it's okay, Chris, because now it's a cool thing to be into D&D. My wife loves D&D.
Interesting. To be honest, I didn't know it was still around, but nerd culture in general, I think, is more accepted than when we were kids.
I'll send you some incredibly overpriced dice through my affiliate link to get you back in. Don't you worry. Awesome. Well, I do want to move into like the freelancer customer questions, but before I do that, I have one more question on Legiit, which might lead to other stuff. So like your organization, like how big is the Legiit team? Like what does your team look like?
So it depends on how you look at it. Like one of the things that was another awesome thing I forgot to mention about taking these trips is I have employees in different parts of the world that I've talked to every day for years, been there when they had their babies and all this stuff. And I never met them in person until I got to start traveling to some of these places. And I bring that up because yesterday I've been working with our same developers for over 7 years. And I got to meet all of them in person yesterday for the first time, which was very special. But as far as answer your question, I don't have an exact head count, but I'd say around 25 people that keep everything running. We have people in 6 of the 7 continents. Antarctica, we still haven't got on the bingo card.
You try to recruit one.
Every time I say that, somebody's like, I'll move to Antarctica if you give me a job. I was like, you might want to research Antarctica before you make that commitment. But anyhow, I live in the United States. My partner lives in the United States, and our COO lives in the United States. She's the only one that lives remotely close to me. Everybody else is scattered all out the world. Serbia, Philippines, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Kenya, Brazil, Australia, something else. But everybody's 100% remote, and I just kind of manage it. I try to keep the work interaction between me and just a few people, and then they have people under them that they all report to. I have personal interactions with them because I think that's a good part of leadership is getting people to like you and to know your people. That's something Mads talks about too. But yeah, that's kind of the tier. It's just kind of a standard structure with me at the top and then so on the way down. But we've been very effective. One thing I'm very, very proud of is that in our 7 years, we've only ever had one person quit, and that was for reasons unrelated to the company. And I've never fired a single person. So other than that one person, everybody that's ever worked for me still works for me.
That's very lucky. The moment I became a manager, the first person I hired was also the first person I ended up firing. I got extremely unlucky. Got through the gauntlet right away.
I've been very fortunate. Like a lot of the people I have were referred by other people I have. For example, I mentioned people in Serbia. The one kid, my first employee, still works for me. He's been working with me for 8 years. And then a few years ago, we needed an additional customer support person. So his sister now works in that role. And then another girl who got referred to me through a friend is our customer service director now. She started as customer service. Her sister works for her, and then her brother-in-law, I think that's the right relationship, brother-in-law works for her as well. So we have 2 literal families in the team as well.
Wow. Do you have like fully built out departments like marketing ops, or like what's your structure like there?
Yeah, so it's not as organized as it could be, but we have customer support is by far our biggest department. I'm very proud of our customer service team. Like for 23, we got something like 15,000 chats, and our average response time was 1 minute and 12 seconds to respond. And like, I think average close time was 12 minutes. So that's like unheard of. And so I'm very proud of that. We have a big customer support team. For our ads, we outsource that to an agency, but he's basically part of the team at this point too. And then we have one lady who does our social media. She makes the content and plans the strategy and things like that. The executive level is me and my partner and our COO and our DOO. And funny story about that. His title is Director of Operations. It could have been it could have been something else, but I have a 12th grade sense of humor, and so the acronym for that is DOO. So that's why he's like, instead of like Chief Operating Officer, he's the director. So it's do. So anyway, and then he runs the SEO side of the business, so he does that. And we have one dedicated SEO person because SEO for a marketplace also really really hard. So I think we forgot to mention that, but. And then we have some people that do odds and ends. Like we have somebody that's doing our cold email and like our community outreach and like managing our Facebook groups and things like that. So that's the part that I say is a little messy because there's not as much structure to that as possible. But that's kind of the main structure. And then the developers, my partner manages them, and then they're a separate agency, but ingrained in what we do that they basically work for us too. So
makes sense. That's a pretty sizable team. You got a lot of different projects going on with the omnichannel marketing. What would be your tip to people out there listening to like manage your remote teams better? What have you done that you found pretty effective?
The culture, I think, is the big thing. Have them buy in to your goal, like whatever your goal for the company is, to where they feel like it's not your goal, it's their goal too. That's big. And then we have a very informal structure. So we have like Meme Friday where everybody shares their favorite meme. We have a lot of like inside jokes, both as the team and then with one another. We have a monthly team meeting. Not everybody can make that because the time zones it's impossible to find a time to accommodate everybody. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the culture, and that's kind of cliche, right? But like the culture is the big thing, I think, that keeps us together because you can get a job anywhere these days, I assume. But
you literally have a platform of job posting.
yeah, and you know, we've gotten some of our employees from there too. But yeah, that's kind of, it's just the culture. You pay well, treat them well. Like time off, everybody gets. Originally, I tried to like remember everybody's holidays, but with so many different cultures, I was like, I never heard of some of these. So at the beginning of the year, everybody just tells me whatever, not me, but somebody, whatever holidays they want, and they have whatever holidays they want. You have unlimited time off. Nobody abuses that. In fact, that director of operations I was just telling you about, he got married this year, well, last year now. And on New Year's Eve, he was 10 o'clock his time. I was like, what the fuck are you still doing? Is it all right if I swear?
Yeah, of course.
All right, what the fuck are you still doing working? Like, I'm going to disable your Slack account and change our passwords if you don't go spend some time with your wife. So does he not take advantage? Like, he goes too far the other way at times. Like, it sounds cliche, but just being a good person that people want to work for, that makes all the difference. And there was something else I was going to say, but I forgot. But like, I know. And the one thing I'll add to that is I didn't know how to do any of this going in. I didn't intend to run a business or have a team. I just wanted to make more than I made at my job so I could quit. And it's just something I've had to learn on the fly. But, I think they would agree. I don't want to speak for anybody. I think I've done a pretty good job of creating something like that.
That's great, man. And in terms of cliche, yeah, it is cliche, but it's also extremely true. Like people like roll their eyes, culture. But like culture is like the operating system of your entire company, right? Like if everyone has the same mission values, then that gives them, in my view at least, the ultimate flexibility to tackle the problems with the company vision in mind. You know what I mean? Like they can respond in the way that the company would want them to respond easier. So I'm all for culture stuff. I think
we have this one expression that it's called "that hope is you." And like when you do a job, a lot of times you do the same thing day in and day out, and you can forget that it affects, like in our case, there's another person on the other side of that screen. So the way I have gotten it to people to remember that it may seem like just another one of those whenever you get a conversation, like a support conversation, that there's somebody out there that's like, they're either pissed because they had something go wrong or they're trying to figure something out. And the reason they're doing that is they want to get something. So if it's a freelancer and they can't figure out how to set up their thumbnail or something, you might think they're being dumb, which they kind of are. But they're doing that in the hope that they will be able to list the service and make some sales and provide for their family. Or if it's a customer, they're trying to get something that get their business going so they can rent and get more and help their family or whatever it is. But we try to remember that they need that hope, and that hope is they're looking to us for that. So that has really, it's something I truly believe, but it's something that has also resonated with us. And I see people work harder when they realize that. So
I like that. It reminds me of my friend Patrick Campbell. He ran ProfitWell that he sold it for. I saw him give the speech, and it was basically just like how to deal with people. And he said, you should always have the most charitable interpretation of what they're doing. Like, they do something that it really pisses you off. Like, what are you not answering any of my Slack? This guy is not doing anything. The charitable interpretation might be like, well, he has all this other stuff going on. Just had a kid. The kid is sick. Like, there's all this other stuff that's happening that might be percolating this. It's not like the guy's trying to be a dick. It's just like
right.
he's in the mix of it, right? So like having the charitable interpretation calms the temperature down. I always thought that was a good one. I like your last up thing too. It's good. Okay, well, I want to move as we're moving towards the end of the podcast. I do want to talk a little bit about about freelancing in the world of SEO right now. So when the person who is a freelancer out there and they're trying to get freelancing clients, like, I mean, you've seen so much of this. What would be your advice here? Like, how should they present themselves? What should they do?
Well, for whatever reason, people that get into freelancing tend to treat it like a side hustle rather than an actual business. And my thing is, if you're going to put in side hustle effort, you're going to get side hustle money. And, they start, like, for example, with us, a lot of times they come from other marketplaces and think it's going to be the same thing. And they can just lazily copy their low effort descriptions and stuff like that. Like, we have a different clientele that expect a higher standard, not just in quality of work, but in overall quality of business. And they get mad because that stuff doesn't work. So treat it like a business and not like a hobby. And what I mean by that is, first of all, a question I get a lot is, what's selling right now that I can sell? Is like, it doesn't matter what's selling. It's like, what do you know how to do? Is it something that people will pay money for? If so, do that. If not, you need to go learn something that people will pay money for. I don't want you to try to wedge yourself into something because you think it will sell. I want you to sell something that you're very skilled at. So there's that. Is like, learn to do something that people will actually pay you for, and like examine each marketplace, because like there's crap that sells on Fiverr that won't sell with us, and I hate when people compare us to them because we're doing totally different things, but they won't sell with us. So, and probably vice versa. So figure out who the audience is, figure out if you can offer something that's valuable to them, and then present it in a way that is professional. That's another thing that people are really lazy about, and we've almost forced on them. Is, you have to have a high quality thumbnail with a picture of yourself, a profile picture of yourself, actual persuasive sales copy rather than just what I call Wikipedia pages. And what I mean by that is, this is the facts of what it does, and that's it. Like, it's just an information sheet. It doesn't persuade. Have actual persuasive sales copy. Basic customer service is something that you would be surprised. Well, you actually probably wouldn't be surprised. But was surprising to me at first is something that people don't do. Respond to your messages, be helpful, don't be a dick, basically, stuff like that. And then fill out every little thing that we give you on your profile. Like, you can put like an intro video on your profile, fill that out. You can connect your socials, fill that out. And then the other thing to remember is, even if you use a marketplace, which I hope you do, don't rely just on the traffic from that. Promote your business. Like, when you're a business owner, your job is twofold. It's to do the thing that you do, but it's also to get business for yourself. So constantly, have YouTube, social media, constantly tell people about what you do, because there's somebody that needs what you do that hasn't heard about you. And so you have to constantly promote yourself. And so that's kind of the recipe, is something that people that actually want to pay for and that you're good at. Present it in a way that will make them feel confident in you, deliver on what you say you're going to do, and then tell other people about it. And I think if you can do all of those as a freelancer, you'll succeed. That sounds like a lot of work. And that brings us back to point number one, which is that this is not a side hustle. It's a freelancing business. So it may not be a business in the way we traditionally think of a big office with cubicles and employees and stuff, but it's still a business. And if you treat it with that respect, it will treat you with the same respect.
So I have a question on freelancers that are, maybe they're a few levels deep, right? So they're doing everything you're saying. And, freelancer by their nature, they're one person, right? They only have so much time. So as a freelancer, their trajectory goes up in terms of the amount of money and clients they have. Like, what do you recommend that they do with that time constraint? Like, Should they lift up their prices? Should they start an agency? Like, what have you seen the freelancers do?
Well, I guess the definition of freelancer is kind of fluid because I think a lot of people that consider themselves to be agencies are actually glorified freelancers.
I agree.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, but for whatever reason, it's seen as like agency is like a level above freelancer. And if you're just doing everything yourself, you're a freelancer.
Right.
That said, you can still be a freelancer and have other people help you with things. I still work as a freelancer on Legiit like everybody else. Well, not like everybody else, but like everybody else on there. And I have like 6-7 people. Yeah, I guess like 6 or 7 people that keep that going. So at some point, you cannot do everything yourself. You can't do the marketing, the fulfillment, the messaging, the customer service. You cannot do it all yourself if you have any ambition of getting beyond X level. Maybe you don't, if that's fine. If you're like a laptop lifestyle type of person that just wants to make, 3, 4, 5 grand a month and then go live on the beach, that's not for me. But, I do understand the appeal of that. But there's a point when that's just not, we all have the same 24 hours in a day and you can only get X amount of work done in them. And if you want to get beyond X level, you're going to have to like get other people to help you. So don't be afraid to spend money on people. I waited way too long before I did that.
Oh, the great secret is hiring people. That unlocks so much stuff, man. It's wild. When I used to manage like 10 people, I think, at EF, and they were mostly all my directs. So there's a lot to manage, but they were all super good and like just so much power with you have like someone else's brain like helping you, and they're often better at the thing than you are. So, like, at least if you're good at hiring, they should be.
Yeah, well, especially if they do just that one thing and like that's all they do. Just
Right.
The way we get better at things is by repetition. So they're eventually going to be better at it. I've gotten to the point where I joke and say that I'm like the Colonel Sanders of Legiit. Like I'm just the face on the sign because I don't want to say all, but the main thing I do is stuff like this, like spread the word and, make decisions that other people execute. And there are getting to be times when I don't even know how to do shit on the site anymore. I'd be like, how do I get to such and such a feature or report or whatever? And at first I was like, man, I need to get better at this. And I'm like, then I realized, no, I'm doing what I'm supposed to. Like I had a meeting with our chief of operations a couple months ago, and she's like, yeah, one thing that's working really well to generate new customers is this. I don't remember what it was, but this thing is like, I didn't even know we were doing that. So
it's a scary. Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, sorry. Just like what you said there, it's a scary thing for entrepreneurs to like take that step back and like, oh my God, I don't know about my own business. All at the same time is like extremely liberating, at least in my view. It sounds like you had a similar experience.
Yeah, I forget what I was going to say there, but yeah, it's like one key person can really change everything.
Yeah.
Like for example, we're building in some really cool AI features into Legiit, and that stuff's way above my head, but like it's been a challenge technologically, and we've gone through several AI developers because AI developer is not even really a thing. Like it's a bunch of different.
They've been for like 3 months or something, right?
Right. And we went through a couple people who just didn't really get the job done, and now we have one guy that just like he wakes up excited to develop cool AI shit. Like I'm sure he needs the money. Like everybody's got to make a living, but he really does that because he's like pumped to like do more AI stuff. And he's like coming up with new ideas. He's like, once this works, we can also do this. So a person like that can like change your business overnight. How you find them is a whole other challenge, but
that's the very hard part. Yes. Once you find them, they're great.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on time here. Before we get into the quick questions of a fire round, if you will, I do want to ask your thoughts on AI and what's going on right now in the industry. So like it's been a pretty tumultuous last couple of years, and at least in certain sectors of the SEO world, right? Give me your thoughts on everything that's happening and where do you think it's going?
First of all, it has absolutely crushed our content sales. I hear that from everybody else too that sells content. Like it was our number 2 category and it was like slowly creeping up. Yeah. It was slowly creeping up on SEO for like the number 1 category. And literally I did a chart, I don't know, a couple months back, and it's literally like straight down since literally from the day ChatGPT came out to today. And I get it to some extent. People don't want to hire writers. They want to push 3 buttons and get content. And instead, if that's good or not is not for me to say. I think it's going to come back around, and eventually it being written by a human is going to have like a premium. But, that could be one thing that's going. I don't know. I'm also seeing people trust AI more than they trust humans in a lot of cases, which happened really fast. Like, for example, the way we have a lot of our freelancers have customers that buy from them multiple times a month. And what they do is they leave all the reviews on one day. So it's like review from the same person, and people instantly assume that's fake. We tested and we're beta testing, and we're going to implement like an AI summary of people's reviews. Kind of like, I think Amazon has something like that.
You do,
And
yeah.
we found that people trust that more than they trust what the actual humans wrote. So I think we're going to have to start accepting that people trust AI and like stop being afraid of it. Like, I don't know if people are afraid of it, but it's going to take my job. Is like, if it does, your job probably deserves to be taken. I hate to say that, but instead of like, it's going to start replacing certain verticals with new verticals. So you just have to be smart enough to add those verticals and be in the new ones, and rather than the old ones. I'm not going to pretend like if you'd told me in 2021 that there would be a fucking chat that could crap out an article that's just as good as a lot of writers. Not that AI content is good as every writer, but it's as good as some mediocre writers. I would have told you were crazy, but here we are 4 years later, 3 years later, whatever it is. And AI can really put out better content than a lot of writers. So my point is, you don't know what's going to happen, but it's not going away. It's like the internet in 1995 right now.
It's wild, man. Like, things are changing so quick. I have a friend, this is a couple years ago now, I guess, which is ancient in AI terms.
Right.
He built a chatbot company and he got it up to like 25K a month. And then, like, I think it was OpenAI, they just unleashed it, like some new chatbot function, which was the whole reason why you buy his service. So the whole thing just went to zero like in 30 days.
Yep. They've done that a few times.
Wild times. Yeah.
I forget what it was, update it was. There was one that they rolled out about a year ago that, like, on Twitter or X, every AI like wrapper, that's what they call AI softwares a lot of the times. Like, it was like, this is the end for us, this is the end for us, and they were right for the most part. So it's people are don't depend on like easy tool or something like that where they can just flip a switch and it'd be your whole business. Like, it's a little off topic, but remember a few years ago, Clubhouse was the app that everybody was like interested in.
Yeah.
And now that's just like a feature on everybody else's platform.
Right. It's amazing how many people like spent so much time building up their Clubhouse following just for it all to be for naught, And they never got the traffic off of Clubhouse. The smart ones did, of course, but most of them didn't. Like, no one even uses this anymore. But
nope, I hated it.
I kind of liked it because I'm a podcaster guy. I begrudgingly did video. Like, I do video now because just the way the world is moving, right? But it's not to like, I'm not like thrilled with this ring light like staring into my eyes, and I can never like place the light right, so it can always glasses like this. But anyways, I do.
I've been worrying about the lamp in the background.
You know the pain. So I do have a question for you in terms of where you think like Google is going. So like a lot of people in our industry, they're pretty doom and gloom with it, right? And other people are like, no, everything is completely fine. I find myself somewhere in the middle where I don't think either way is true. But like, talk to me. What do you think the future of SEO is?
Well, first of all, anybody that's unhappy with Google results right now is completely justified. Like, it's much harder to find good information than it ever has been before. That said, people still use Yahoo. Like, it's not going away. I don't know. I think that we're going to have to start thinking of a multi-search engine world rather than SEO, meaning Google. Because without even trying, I'm already getting traffic from ChatGPT. Whether it's commercial traffic or informational, I don't know yet. But that's without even trying. People are going to start figuring that out if they haven't already, and figuring out how to optimize for that one and Perplexity and whatever else comes out. And find ways to optimize for all of them. I think that Google will always exist. I could be wrong, but I think it will always exist in some form. But I don't think they're going to have, I think other sites are going to have enough market share that you have to care about them. And, maybe that's for the best. That's how capitalism is supposed to work anyway. The other thing about Google is they are really bad at making money. I know that sounds weird for like this massive wealthy company. Like, some 90% of it still comes from AdWords. Like, they cannot figure out how to monetize, or it's not AdWords, Google Ads, I guess it's called now. But they cannot get anything else they've ever done to make money. Even YouTube apparently loses money.
Really? That's surprising.
Yeah.
I thought that would be their breadwinner.
No, apparently it still loses. I don't know if that's still accurate, but it was as of a couple of years ago.
Interesting.
So they're just so bad at monetizing. So that's forced. If they could get better at that, and I know that's easier said than done, but they could get better at that, then they wouldn't have to force ads into their search results as much as they do. And they could continue to get a better product. But They're in that weird thing where like Apple's kind of similar, that like they have probably the worst product they've ever had, but they're also making the most profit they ever have.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
Apple, like iPhones haven't innovated in, 10, 15 years, basically since Steve Jobs died.
Yeah.
But they're the most profitable they've ever been. And Google's in the same way. They're apparently as profitable as they've ever been. And their product sucks worse than it ever has. So I think, again, I'm not the CEO of a multi-global company, so I don't know what to tell them. But if they could figure out better ways to monetize other products, it seems like that would make it where they could focus and make their search engine better and not have to get as much advertising out of that as they possibly can.
Yeah, I agree with everything you say there, especially the point where you bring up Yahoo, which I've done a similar point at conferences where, my dad, he's 68, almost 69. He still uses the Yellow Pages, like the physical Yellow Pages. Like, yeah. There's still people using that stuff. And down the road, even if the younger generation are all on TikTok with the brain rot in terms of like they're searching, right? Like there's still going to be a crazy amount of people using Google. Like I still use Google. Like I use AI too, but I use Google often as well. So I think
Google being a source for informational content is probably done, because like it's so much easier to get an answer from ChatGPT. But ChatGPT is never going to be able to. Well, maybe I don't think it's ever going to be able to tell me how to find the best Italian restaurant near me.
It's Fred's tried the ChatGPT Chrome extension for search, and it did not go well. They're gonna like take it off without destroying their entire Chrome setup. So glad I was not the guinea pig on that. But I agree. I mean, I think infoqueries, we see it in the affiliate space. I saw a lot of affiliate sites, not much anymore with everything going on. Like you see just the info sites getting crushed, and this makes me think that like SaaS is like, especially on the micro level, is going to get crushed too, because so much of the heavily involved search queries are info based, right? But then you also have things like Cursor coming out, like removing the moat of the developer. And it's not there yet, obviously, but it definitely is moving in the direction it feels.
Yeah, that's literally what I did my presentation on this past weekend. Was I showed how to use like Bolt.me was the one that I used to like create like little simple apps that you can put on your site, like calculators and stuff. Before it would have taken several hours of dev time. That now it's just like literally a query, a chat, and it creates it and it attracts links. So yeah, I don't know how to code for shit, despite having 2 degrees in computer programming. That was money well spent. But I don't know how to code at all, and I made those. Like it's really the first thing we have on Legiit that I personally made, which I'm very proud of, even though it's like couldn't be simpler. But yeah, I agree. Like, I think SaaS will continue to be there, but I don't think it'll be like the micro SaaS type of thing where it's just like that one thing. Like I'll just go code my own tool rather than get logged, like a link in bio type of thing. Instead of paying Linktree or some shit, if I wanted to use one of those, I would just go tell one of those tools to make one for me. And I bet it would be better.
Yeah, probably. It's going to be interesting times, dude. I have friends who they haven't bought a premium WordPress plugin in like over a year because they just coded it themselves now with AI. But then on the bigger case, really surprised me. I'm forgetting the name of the company, but I believe they're a big Fortune 500 company, and they use Salesforce as their CRM and just like cancel the contract, which is probably like a multi-million-dollar contract, I would assume, to just build their own CRM using AI. Like, whew, that was a plot twist I was not expecting there. Seems like
I would be
are right now, so we'll see how that plays out.
Well, good luck to them if they go back to Salesforce, because you have to basically give them a DNA sample in order to buy their product. It's like one of those things that, like forces you to go into a call to talk about synergies and like just
alignment. Just let me use it.
Yeah.
Well, man, we're at the end of the podcast here, so I have 3 quick questions for you, and all I want is 3 quick answers. Are you ready, my friend?
Let's do it.
All right. What, in your view, is the best hidden growth opportunity for a freelancer?
Probably creating AI apps and things that solve very specific problems. I know we just said that might go away. There's still going to be people that would rather pay $15-20 once than try to figure out search for 6 hours themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like it will be wounded. It's not going to go away. There will always be people who will buy it, right? So I agree. What tools or resources would you recommend for a freelancer?
To
become a better freelancer, I should say. I should probably add a context.
Become a better freelancer?
Build a better freelancer.
So what tools?
Tools or resources you recommend?
Okay. I don't have a specific one, but learning direct response marketing, I think, would serve most of them well. Because freelancers just aren't very good at marketing their services in general. And if you can learn like a little direct response copywriting, it'll make you win when somebody else doesn't. You could have the exact same thing. If you can learn how to write direct response copy, like Van Kennedy type copywriting, you'll be able to crush everybody else.
7 secrets they don't want you to know. You won't believe what number 5 is. I love
I
that
have
stuff.
a couple of my services on Legiit that are literally written in like sales letters, and they crush, even though it's just like backlinks.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would also recommend to check out the resource that is Legiit.com. Make sure you get a freelancer profile. Little promo out there for you, Chris. If you weren't going to do it, I have to. All right, final question, the hardest question.
Sure.
What has been your funniest moments as you started working in the internet marketing world?
Well, one of the first affiliate sites I ranked was how to get rid of thigh fat. Love handles. How to get rid of the love handles. And I was pretty skinny at the time. I had no idea to get rid of love handles. I just pumped a bunch of CPA offers to it. And like everyone laughs when I tell them that story. So if I had more time, I could probably think of something funnier, but that's the first thing that comes to mind.
That's great. When I started selling, some of the influencers websites or niche sites back in the day, or they would come to me like, "Hey, Greg, do you think I could sell this site about this?" Like, "Oh, is it this site?" Like, "How do you know all my sites?" Like, because I wrote all the content. Because they would hire this content agency that would farm it out to this lady who farmed it out to me when I was on an oil rig in Alaska. So I know all the extremely strange niches. I love like the SEO influencers if it is, but yeah, that would be right up. But yeah, I love that stuff, man.
Isn't it funny how far, like how many steps down, like stuff gets outsourced? Like from mega agency to white label agency to freelancer to like freelancer's employee. It's like 6 degrees separated.
Yeah, how did this happen? It's the great chain of value.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed this conversation, dude.
me too.
For everyone out there listening and they want to connect with you, or maybe they want to check out Legiit, like tell them where to go.
Yeah, so the best 3 ways to get anything from me are from obviously go to Legiit. If you can't find me, our customer service, we have 24-hour support. They'll help you out. If you want to talk to me directly, Facebook is probably the best thing. I know a lot of people prefer LinkedIn, but I like Facebook better. Like my personal Facebook, just search Chris M. Walker, do M, or you're not going to find me. And then YouTube, if you want like content, go to YouTube. It's just Chris M. Walker. I'm doing a lot of regular stuff there as well.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We'll put all the links in the show notes, and I'm sure we'll be talking again somewhere down the line here.
Yeah, definitely. This was a lot of fun. So thank you for having me on and accommodating the schedule.
My pleasure.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it got you inspired at all the different things that are happening in this industry. And of course, if you just want to buy a highly profitable business, you can always go to empireflippers.com/marketplace, or maybe you want to make an exit of your highly profitable business, and you could go to empireflippers.com/sell your site. I've been your host, Greg. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a review, give us a like, a follow, share it across social media. Talk to you all soon. See you on the next episode.